Hello, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Together, we are doing the next episode of our book club, and it is The Holographic Universe by Michael
Yeah,
Talbot.
yeah.
Cheers. So it's been a while. We haven't done this in a while because it took so much time to read this book, to be honest.
Yes, it took a very long time in between the last time we met and now when we meet again. We saw each other in real life. and
We
and yes,
dance in the lakes.
yes. And now somehow I have finished the book. It took me close to 6 months to finish my read of this book.
And it might have been your experience too, who you are watching. And
Yes.
we understand. It was, what do you feel? Like, how was the book for you?
I actually found this book really interesting, like the concepts and a lot of the things he talks about. It's very relatable and I think it's very true. And I also really like that, like he did have, like scientific explanations in the beginning, but he also like gives examples of he'll be like in like the 1500s, like this Paris, like the group of monks and stuff like that, or the Dutch group of monks and all these things. So it was very interesting to see that there were like people out there who were either just like common people or like people who actually belong to like religious groups and stuff. They did experience these things that we call miracles, but it's also like you can see how you can scientifically back it up. So I really like this book. My only comment was that it was a bit too scientific for me in some parts, so I think that was why it took me so long to complete. What about you?
For me, it's the reverse. I actually really enjoyed, like, if you see the tabs, I really enjoyed the beginning of the book, which was the science, because it felt like I'm always on the search for like the proof of what we're doing because I experience it on the daily when I give myself Reiki or when you channel the Akashic records. But there's like the Cartesian thinking of like, oh, if we don't have a proof, then it is not real. And sometimes when I talk about my work, people are like very dubious. So I feel like we need scientific proofs. And that was like a collection of scientific proofs. So I was like highlighting and tabbing and I was like, see, haha, hoo hoo. Sadly, it stops pretty early on, and also like his work is that's been published in '91. So I wish someone could do a second part of this book with what has been discovered between '91 and now 2024. But I really enjoyed it, like the nature of the universe, how we can understand that our mind can actually touch the world and change matter and affect matter, affect the world. It was so interesting. And I hope that everybody knows that because that gives us so much power. It empowers us to to see how connected we are. And it was super exciting. The second part of the book for me was a repetition of books that I've read throughout. The chakras and all of that work. For me, it was very repetitive. It was interesting to read, but I didn't learn new things. And so for me, it was exciting to learn a lot of new things in the beginning. And I'm glad we read this. I'm glad it completes the picture of what we've been reading so far in this book club,
Yes.
but not my favorite.
Yes. Not my favorite either. I actually think it was profound, but somehow, yeah, if you ask me like top 10, I'll be like, this would maybe be at the back of my mind. But somehow a book that I think everybody should read. Yeah.
Yeah, this should be
And
taught in school, actually, Like this is cool material. Like it's like this is the nature of the universe. This is how it works. And yeah.
I think, yeah, I agree. I think it's one of the things that we need to remember. I was gonna ask because like we're talking about how these things connect with the world and everything, but I noticed for myself as I was reading the book, my world started to become more holographic. Or maybe I just started noticing how more like quantum physicky my world was. So in a way, I did feel like I was actually moving through you know, like he talks about dimensionality and like positionality in some of the chapters. So I started to feel like my life was starting to do that as well, where I don't know, it would be like I would be, you know, it would just feel like suddenly time just like I shifted. I don't know if it was like I shifted a timeline. I don't really think is that, but like it just felt like time started to constrict for me, or like sometimes time would be expensive, and then it actually started like I was becoming aware of like the super hologram at like some point. Yeah, but I'm curious, did you have those same feelings as well?
That's actually the question I was going to ask you as well. So I'm glad that you did that. Yes, I did actually, and even just yesterday when I was like kind of skimming through the book, and at the same time, like Avatar, we were rewatching Avatar the cartoon. So, and I could see like when Aang is like in the iceberg, but the iceberg also has the same shape as his head. And I was like, oh, see the hologram, like there's him, and then there's the bigger him, and then you know that the planet goes that way. So I was, yeah, um, definitely understood that differently because it's a concept that's not easy. It's not easy. Like I couldn't get it for a long time. And when I interviewed other people that were saying like, yes, the universe is a hologram, I was like, huh, okay. I don't understand, to be honest. I'm not a scientific person, but I'm interested in it. And then this book actually takes you deeper and deeper and deeper and explains things quite with a lot of different perspectives. And that's how you can actually approach the subject and start to understand. And I had the same experience in math when we started math in space at school. And it was like with one teacher, you could understand that, yes, the world is 3D. And then the year after, you're like, I'm totally lost. I don't know how to calculate this anymore. So it was very much like this. And when we understand the energetical world, it's beautiful to see that we're all connected, not just because, you know, we're in that space of I'm not that far from the table, but because we're actually an hologram of another, and it continues with that fractal and with that reproduction of patterns. So we're linked together in such a beautiful way. And I experienced this with planets, with the moon, with the sun. So it was beautiful to see that this world is multifold and connected and resonant. And a lot of what helps me as well to be in that space was the different frequencies, like alpha, delta, theta. So I listened to a lot of delta frequencies, and I was able to feel in my body how that rippled through my energy, and how there was like a connection to go deep or wider with the holograms, and to understand that reality. So I really, really enjoyed this. What about you? Is there more that you want to share about how you experience this holographic reality?
Yeah, let me actually see if I can find the page. I don't have the little sticky tab. Hold on, but I did highlight them. Okay, one of the actual ones that I remember, it was, I think there's a part in the book where he starts talking about, you know, like our organs have a holographic memory. So like in a sense, the organs are they're etheric, and I kind of already knew this because, you know, in acupuncture, where, you know, they poke a needle to work on your organs in their specific meridians. I forgot how I learned it, but like it's actually working on your holographic body. It's like your etheric body. Um, so there's this like an anecdote in the book about how this person, I think it was the author himself. So I think he said something mean to his spleen, and then he saw a psychic, and then she asked him like, "Did you say something mean to your spleen the other day, or something like that?" And he was like, "Yes." She's like, "Yeah, and that's because your spleen remembered it. Your organs actually remember. They have like a psychic memory." And when I was reading that, I started to notice it and how I was doing it to myself, because I've been experiencing like specific muscle problems, and also what I suspect is a spleen problem. So you know, like I give myself Reiki and I do all these things, but I don't actually take the time to talk to my organs, and, you know, to actually, you know, it's like, why aren't you healed? Instead of like, I know you're doing a good job, you're doing the best you can. Like, of course you're holding on to all of my anger right now, like my liver and stuff like that. So that was very interesting. Another thing for me was I think it's in the beginning of the book where he explains how the hologram of a TV works. So, you know, it's like there's the thing and then it's reflected, but like it's where you see it. And so it made me very conscious about the world around me, because it's not just how like a TV shows us what, like it's when somebody like tells me about their experience yesterday, somebody how they, you know, they're mad at another person, they're like, this is all that will happen because you're standing from that one position. So it's very interesting to see, because when you like start to think about it, it's like, yeah, you can be like in one, it's what the light is showing you, like what's, you know, shown there, but there's so many layers and there's so many ways of it being like stacked upon each other that even though it's true, it's not true, you know?
Yeah, and that really works with like self-reflection as well. When you're like, what I see of the world is also what I must see within myself. So considering that everything is a mirror, like when you say there's the light, there's also like what's not in the light, but it's also part of the picture. So I've been hearing myself say some things and ask myself, is this also how I think about myself? Like, is it a projection again? So when we're talking about the hologram, we're talking about light shows, projections, shadows. So it was very interesting to be like, ah, another key to go inside of the little places and see what needs to be done and owned, accepted, talked to. So yeah, even though it is scientific, it's a scientific book, it is actually a map. Like understanding how reality works will help you understand how you work. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to share something. Like I wrote post-its in the book to talk about it, because what I loved about this book is that it destroys like magical thinking, like some very basic understanding of how, you know, this spiritual journey works might feel very ungrounded. And what I loved about the book is that it was very grounded, very like resource sources of where I can say this is what it is, or this is what it could be, this is where science is at. And so it really destroys that magical thinking while reinforcing, validating, confirming psychic experiences. So we can go into the other side of the world while staying very grounded, very analytical, which is, you know, one of the parts that is needed when we do those things. And for me, it really helped me with standing stronger in my work without the doubt of what people could think about it, because it's just it's been proven already, it's been studied, it's been researched. It's just that it might not be common knowledge yet, it might not be mainstream yet. And so people should, you know, maybe be directed to this book or to the follow-ups that might exist later or that might already exist. And then we can build a better world if everybody is aware that this is super accessible. Like this reality is not just for the gifted psychic people, it's actually for everyone, because we're all existing in this reality. And then there's just different levels of experiences that you can enter to depending on your free will, depending on your ability to, you know, sit down, meditate, or communicate, and yeah, and see how that works.
Yeah.
That was my little one thing that I want to say. Thank you, author. Thank you so much for this. Do you know of any books that might be another good recommendation for people who are on this journey of maybe trying to channel the Akashic Records? Big up to your class. People can join your class, by the way.
Thank you. I don't do the classes for this moment, but thank you for plugging it.
Sorry.
No. Wait. My books, yes. My books. So when we met, then we went to the Banyan bookstore together. So okay, on my copy it says there's someone called Lynne McTaggert who wrote something called The Field, and this book showed up at the bookstore. And I remember I looked at it, and I think I sent you a screenshot. I forgot what it was, but I said I saw this in Banyan Books, and you said yes, this is the person who wrote the foreword to the Holographic Universe. So I've never actually read that book before, but if there were people interested in this book in like certain themes, yeah, this I've never read it before, but I'm thinking it would be the same. Another one for me, I'm still going through it, but I would recommend Frequency by Penny Pierce. That is a really good one. It's more, I think it breaks down the concepts of this book into more digestible ways that you can use it as a form of your own energy healing or your own energetic sovereignty. And there was one more book, which I am blanking on, but if you have books to recommend, I'll think about the book. I'll remember.
Yes, Tom Kenyon. I would say the Hathors, the channel texts by the Hathors, are definitely just this with meditative exercises to actually touch that reality. So I would say, his books and his blog posts where he talks about the brain and the different explanations of how neuroscience helps us to touch that reality and experience it for ourselves. So that's what I would say. But otherwise, which other book?
Well, I thought about the second and the third book that I was going to recommend for people who like this book. It's called Quantum and the Lotus, and it's basically a Buddhist monk talks to a quantum physicist, and it's very, very, very interesting. I will say for me, I found it really difficult to get through, but it's basically, like he uses the concepts of Buddhism and he talks about them, and then the physicist is that physics, the physics person, physics scientist will explain it in terms of physics, or like so it's basically a back and forth conversation where one person can use their spirituality to validate the science, and the science will correlate with the spirituality. It's very, very interesting to read.
I'm definitely reading this book next. Thank you so much for this recommendation. I mean, is it hard to get into because of like the way it's written, or like it would be great as a podcast or as an audiobook? No.
I think it's the way it's written, because it's a conversation. It's like an actual like back and forth conversation, and for me, I think it was the scientific things that it's really hard. But I found when you explain it by Buddhism, I'm like, yeah, I get it. So maybe for you it could be the opposite. I don't know.
That's really cool. I can't wait. Okay, so I'll check it out. Is there anything else that you wanna talk about this book? Is there anything else that you experience or that feels connected to?
Yeah, so there's a whole chapter on the super hologram towards the end of the book. So basically he explains, like how everything that has happened already has not happened. Like it's all in this hologram, whether you've experienced it or you haven't experienced it, it's already been recorded. So it's like the Akashic record. So I was thinking, like, if you look through the super hologram, you could not only find any memory that you know of, but like, couldn't you tap into it and be like, show me, let's say I want to feel brave about driving a car because traffic is insane and scary. Like, show me a memory where I drove a car and I felt confident in driving, or show me a collective memory of happiness, a collective memory of what it is like to feel safe, a collective memory of what everybody remembers as a blissful earth. So yeah, something to think about.
That's great. I love that. And who are you talking to when you say show me? Are you talking through the Akashic records, or are you creating a connection, a relationship with like the creator, let's say, the mastermind of this reality that starts the hologram?
So prior to this book, I mean, I kind of knew you could already do that. So I would ask my own records. But after reading this book, I mean, I could still ask my records, but I also think I could just, the super hologram is probably sentient, sentient or conscious. So I don't know. Could possibly talk to the super hologram. I don't know.
Definitely. And I have a few places that I highlighted, and I wanted to read them just so that people, if they never read this book, they have like those good, like really good quotes. One thing that I also really loved about this book is how like there's titles that give you like everything. I really loved that
Yes.
way of showing you like the core messages of this book. Everything is very, very interlinked. Everything is very connected. This reality is not different little things that are separated by the contours, by the way we touch it and feel like it's different. Everything is so quantum that we're all connected at all times, and everything that we do affects others. We're affected by everything that's happening around us. And therefore, maybe we can be more careful about what's going on, careful about how we also take in the world and understand that, yeah, there's no boundaries. We're this ever expansive being in this ever expansive universe. And there's a lot of beauty in there. And there's also, when we have that understanding, a different way that we can act in this world so that we can create harmony and live a better life. So that was my part. But I did find the other places that I wanted to read out loud. So this is from page 160. And he's quoting Don Juan, and it says, "We are perceivers. We are an awareness. We are not objects. We have no solidity. We are boundless. The world of objects and solidity is a way of making our passage on earth convenient. It is only a description that was created to help us. We, or rather our reason, forget that the description is only a description, and thus we entrap the totality of ourselves in a vicious circle from which we rarely emerge in our lifetime." And then much, much later, but on the same page, "If this is true, the apparent solidity of the world is only a small part of what is available to our perception. Although most of us are indeed entrapped in our current description of the world, a few individuals do have the ability to see beyond the world's solidity." And then we will go into the next chapter. That's what he says, but I think it was interesting to see this beautiful quote from Don Juan. Like, we're talking about perception all through and through this book. We're talking about perception and how we can change that perception and have a widely different experience of the universe, one that feels better in our heart, maybe, to see that we're all connected and all connected to everything, to the whole, to creation, to the divine. So that was beautiful for me.
That's wonderful. And I think it's also our perception, but it's also really interesting for me. I found it so interesting to see the way that sometimes that's how people want things to be perceived. And it actually, for a while, it made me question like all these things I know they're not true, but I also wonder like where my current perception, like where my current positionality, like how was it built? How long did it take to build up, you know? So that's something.
And you can see the ramifications of where you're coming from and your family and where your family has been through and where you want to take that. There was a really beautiful understanding in this book called The Horns of the Goddess by Dolores Cannon. And Dolores Cannon is doing past life regressions for different clients under hypnosis. And one of them is explaining different lifetimes and telling Dolores, this is a nexus point. This is where all of those ramifications, all of those past lives that have been following the same patterns, they all meet in this one life in the 80s and creating. And from that, it stems that they're creating new patterns. So they're really out of all those past lives with the same codes going in, and just like all the ramification in one nexus point, and then we create new things. And I thought that was beautiful, and I feel like for a lot of us, it's been what's happening in this lifetime too. It's the ramification from ancestors to your past lives to a new timeline. So yay. Very eloquent. Yay! Is there another part of the world of the book? Well, this book is a hologram of the world, right? That you want to talk about?
I mean, I honestly, for me, I found the one about dream time really interesting as well. Mostly because for me, dreams are important for me. Dreams are, I think, I'm starting to see that dreams are a very interesting reflection of my world, and also, in a sense, I feel like dreams are somehow connected to us in the super hologram, and I haven't figured it out yet, but I do believe that at some point, doing dream work will allow me to access more information in the super hologram, or through the super hologram maybe change something. I don't know. So I did find the Dreamtime one interesting. Where was it? Hold on. Okay, it's still part of traveling in the super hologram. I really like the way that, he started talking about like seeing movies in the aura, or understanding the energetic body. I really liked that. And hold on. Yeah, I think that whole chapter, from traveling the super hologram to return to the dream time, that was just it for me, man. Like, I think he talks about like near death experiences and all these things, and I love that. I think I really I don't I don't know. I think something in all these, like all the information that he gave, especially in that chapter, that was just like super interesting for me. But yeah.
Thank you for sharing this. I wanted to talk about the part where he talks about the fact that it's been proven scientifically that the brain is not where all of the mental activity stems from. And that was, in 91. So much later now we know that we have neurons in our gut. We have neurons like, in other parts of our body, not just the gray matter and the brain that is considered to be the computer, the everything for what our body does. And in a lot of ways, he's describing things that he doesn't have yet proofs on, but that we, as energy workers, we have experiences with. And so he, at some point, he's like, okay, the mind is not in the brain. The mind is actually not contained within the body. It's something that's also, in energy terms, not just the gray matter and the neurons, but it's something that is, pervading, not pervading, like away from, beyond, bigger than the body, and that represents the mental layer of the aura, which is above the physical, above the emotional. You have the layer of the mental, which is where all of that energy goes to. And I really love that he's talking about this, which is things that we can see when we're doing sessions with others, or when we study how the aura works, and how, like, also the experiences. When I think, like, it generally feels like it's here, like, yes, next to the brain, but it definitely feels like it's outside. I don't know if you feel that way too, but yeah, do you feel that way?
No, actually, I can't relate. No, I've not felt that way.
Okay. Do you feel like it comes from inside of your brain when you think? Like the voice is inside of your brain?
Yeah, I think that's how I would feel as well. Like, it's like here, I don't know, here. Which I maybe could be from I've never actually given a thought to it. I would say like maybe outside from the body. But I know that when I'm sensing things, like I sense it through parts of that are outside of my body, but I don't know.
No, that's so interesting to see how everyone is different. And
Yeah.
when we learn, like, of all those studies where people are like, I don't have a voice in my head, or like, I don't see things, I don't visualize things, I'm not able to create those things. And so everybody has like a different understanding of reality, which is again super interesting, because we all think that reality is what it is and we're all experiencing it the same way. But just people who are colorblind and see the grass a different color than green, and we see trees a different color than brown, and variations of brown and green. I think it's fascinating to see how we're all having a very, very, very different perception in experience of this one hologram there, therefore, and how we're influencing each other as well as societies, as cultures, as different times of this millennium, for example. But yeah, no, for me, when I think, it really feels like there's a dashboard here and there's like different windows open and they're like kind of floating around here. So they are definitely outside of my body, and but this is what's going on. Like there's different conversation going on.
Yeah.
Maybe the Pluto Mercury conjunction that I have. Just
That's
everything
really
stacked
cool.
up together. Is it? It's exhausting. Yeah. If you were to like add things to this book, because it's incomplete in a way, because of the time it was published, but also because of your position in the world as a teacher, as an energy worker, as a spiritual person, what would you add to this book?
I would actually like to add a chapter on the Akashic records, because the Akashic records are, I would make it a more factual chapter. I would talk about like what the Akashic records are, and I would also probably talk about how throughout cultures the Akashic records have been accessed like for ages, for forever. I'll probably do that, and then I would probably also add a chapter on energy healing, or I mean, I know like he talks a bit about it, but like I would actually talk about practical things that you can do to like shift things within your body. Is probably what I would do. What about you?
Definitely what you said about the Akashic records. And then I would include multimedia with like different experiences for people to actually do meditations to touch on your holographic reality, and maybe try a few things with different subjects, like how you could improve your health, or your relationships with your family, with different exercises, and then see people take time away from the book, try a few things, and then come back with proofs and validation of what it means and how various it could be as well, because even that proposition of how the world works holographically is one chosen stance, let's say, and then there's also many different ways that we can enter into it. So yeah, but I'm very thankful, very grateful for this book, and yeah, it was cool to read, and cool to go away from the previous books that we've been reading that had to do with nature and the beauty of nature and how connected we can be into it, and then to just like zoom out, and then maybe now we can go back, go closer. But yeah, thank you to this book. Is there anything else that you want to talk about with this book?
No, I feel like I got everything. What about you?
Yeah, me too.
Yes.
And people can go into it or return to it, or pick at it and then see what feels connected to them. But otherwise, yeah, it was a pretty dense book.
Yeah, it's a very dense book.
So we come to a close with The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. I wanted to ask you, what are the recent reads that you've had that you enjoyed the most and you want to recommend to others?
Okay, that's a very good question. I think my top one that I would recommend is The 40 Rules of Love by Elif Shafak. I hope I'm saying her name right. Let me actually go on my Goodreads because I have a lot of 5-star good ones. Okay, yes, The 40 Rules of Love, Elif Shafak. Another one is actually The Greatness of Saturn. The version I read is by Robert E. Svoboda, which I won't spoil it for you, but I think it's very important, especially I think because lots of people who maybe watch our videos will be going through a Saturn return, have maybe recently come out of a Saturn return, and I think Saturn has been a good friend, a good teacher to me. So yeah, I honor Saturn, and this is my gift to you, The Greatness of Saturn. I actually want to say another really good one was Ishmael. Ishmael, I think I read it a really long time ago, but it's been one that really stuck with me. And any Ram Dass book, that's important. But if I had to give just one Ram Dass book, I would say Be Love Now. That's a really good one. But he also wrote another one called Walking Each Other Home. And that's also a really good one for anybody who might be preparing, like if you're just thinking about death as a concept, or if you're preparing maybe to say goodbye to a loved one, or just, just have thoughts about, maybe what the process of dying looks like. That's a really good one. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. So I've been gifted a book called Anam Cara by John O'Donoghue, and I absolutely adore this book. It's about Celtic wisdom and Celtic spirituality, and there's actually a chapter about death as well at the end, and a chapter about aging. And it also it's a beautiful, beautiful collection of wisdoms that are written by a poet. And yeah, it was so beautiful. Anam Cara means your soul friend, like a friend that comes from your soul, and that's why we called our dog Cora. And I also really enjoyed all of the books by José Argüelles, which are all about time and Mayan astrology, and those books are interesting to understand the energetics of time, of each day of a calendar, and how they affect this reality. So I've been studying this ever since, and it was an exciting read. And apart from that, what have I really enjoyed? I'm checking my Goodreads as well. I've really enjoyed Horns of the Goddess by Dolores Cannon that I mentioned in this conversation. And I look forward to more past life regression transcripts from Dolores Cannon and the people that worked with her. And also, I want to give a shout out to Eva Marquez, who was on the book club, because she had a new book out over the summer. It's called Embody Your Cosmic DNA, which is a direct response to her previous book, which was also about activating your cosmic DNA. This one is embodying, so integrating all of the wisdom and codes that you get and how to live a life and how life as a spiritual seeker is like. And it really touched on a lot of wounds or patterns that might happen. It was very, very healing. I actually cried multiple times reading it. So I really recommend this book. And yeah, I hope it helps. So that's that. And I wanted to ask you, what are the next reads that you're looking forward to? Like, do you have plans?
That is a really good one. So I'm currently reading Women Who Run with the Wolves. Love it. I know, like I already know this is going to be a 5-star book. And I'm excited to be reading it like every morning before I turn on my phone. I sit with like lemon water and I just read this book in silence. So that one. I'm currently also reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which I find very interesting. The version that I'm reading is the one by Chögyam Trungpa, I think. So that's the version I'm reading. And then I think I would be really excited to read Autobiography of a Yogi, reread Ishmael, and let me think if there's another one out there. No, just these ones.
I love your enthusiasm. So for me, I'm excited about. I'm currently reading a lot of fantasy and romantasy because it's fun to travel in different universes when it's winter. You can't do much, and I've had a knee injury, so I couldn't move much either. So this has been really fun. Books by Leigh Bardugo and I don't remember her name, but yeah. And Rebecca Yarros, and it's been really fun, and I'm excited about rereading Autobiography of a Yogi. I think it's time. It's been time for a while, but I got myself a copy this time, so I'm not gonna listen to the audiobook. And I can't wait to highlight and use sticky tile on this book, and this is like my joy. And I've also been reading some science fiction, and I've been reading science fiction by Octavia E. Butler, and I have read Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents, which are very, very, very beautiful, important books. And now I'm going to read Kindred by her, and I'm so excited. I'm really, really, really excited. And Feel Good Productivity by Ali Abdaal. It's all about how focusing on feeling good and actually feeding yourself first is actually going to help you create what matters in the world, and how to just experience a better life, a better relationship with work that builds you up instead of enslaves you into being productive. And Ali Abdaal is a YouTube extraordinaire, and I really, really learned so much from him through his videos. So I'm very happy that his book is out, and I've been reading it, and it's so, so, so good. So I guess people should check it out. Feel Good Productivity. Yes, that's it. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone. We are not choosing a next book because we're letting you choose a next book. So we're doing a poll. We're going to let you vote. And after some time, we're going to decide which one has the most votes. And then we'll read it, and then we'll talk about it. And we wish you the best reading days. Enjoy. Have fun.
Bye.
Bye.